Well, hello, everyone. My name's Elijah Henderson,
And I'm Gabrielle Henderson.
and this is the Cryptid Studies Institute. We got a really great show to you tonight, and while you won't be able to hear it, I actually started interviewing this gentleman that we'll have on tonight. Uh, got part of the way into his interview and looked up and realized I wasn't recording him, so had to restart completely. And you're hearing that take now, so yeah. So
My brother's a bonehead.
it's true. I believe many people would agree with that. But this show that you're going to hear, it's going to be an absolute treat for y'all. On this channel, we've discussed some of the strange cases from Robertson County, Tennessee, numerous times, such as the infamous Bell Witch haunting, which I still have one more part of that project, and it'll be completed. And we've also discussed violent Bigfoot encounters from that portion of Tennessee, and even the little known but highly interesting critter of Carr Creek. And tonight we got a gentleman on the channel who is a resident of Robertson County. He's well acquainted with the county's high strangeness. Our guest, Dewey Edwards, is a talented author and researcher who's written at least 9 books on historical accounts, cryptozoology, and the supernatural. And we're very happy to have him on tonight, and I'm sure it'll be a great time. And Dewey, without further ado, welcome to the show, and how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Elijah?
I'm doing good, and I'm sorry to put you through this intro again.
No problem. No problem.
Man, I guess we'll start it out again. With the question that usually precedes most interviews on cryptozoology, and that is, what inspired you to get involved with the cryptozoology, the supernatural, and this kind of thing? How long have you been involved with it, and uh, what's your inspiration to keep going with it?
Alrighty, I had my first paranormal experience when I was, well, actually had one when I was 6 years old. But I didn't actually see anything. I just experienced something weird. When I saw my first full body apparition when I was 11 years old, in 1964. I guess I just told my age. I guess then, didn't I? But anyway, they had that, and it terrified me and my brother both. I mean, it just kind of led into different things from there. It just kind of branched out from there, and we had several sightings here around up in Grand Cross Plains a few years ago, where they thought it was a Bigfoot. Supposed to attack this man and actually run behind him and squeezed him so hard he took his breath, and it like to kill him. They never could find what it was. That's in my book of Season of the Critters. I put a lot of things like that in there. A lot of Robertson County happenings. But the one that I remember the most during my childhood was the Carr Creek critter. Nobody knew what it was. People got out and looked for this thing just every weekend. It was, I reckon, a hobby around town to get out and ride the roads and try to find this critter. It's about I think in June of 1966, there were several reports around the county where farmers had found mutilated cattle and sheep, in the area of Carr Creek and Laura Road, which is on the kind of on the southern tip of Springfield. And they didn't know what happened. I heard these weird unnatural vocalizations, coming out of the woods, and people kind of put 2 and 2 together and thought, well, this must be some kind of critter that's killing these animals, So they first called it a booger, and they called it a critter, and then as it was close to Carr Creek where the sightings were at, they just called it the Carr Creek critter. Several people had seen the thing, but the crazy part was nobody could actually agree on what it actually looked like. So many eyewitnesses. Some described it as a hyena. Some said it looked more like a panther or a large bobcat. It was just kind of odd, that nobody could come to an agreement as to what it actually looked like. There was a lady, last name of Wall. She was actually the first person to actually lay eyes on it. And she said it occurred back in March or April of 66, which was about a month or 2 before they got to finding these mutilated animals. She said it attacked her dogs and cut them up pretty bad. And then following the attack, she witnessed the animal, which was like grayish colored, looked like a little bear with short ears. So he jumped in her farm pond and swam across it and come out the other side and off into the woods. There were several other people that had seen this thing. But like I said, nobody could. Some described it as a gray colored animal with long ears and long nose. Some said it had a bobtail. Some said it had short ears. Like I said, nobody could actually agree as to what it actually looked like.
Did it ever get the description from anybody? The bipedal, Dogman, or Bigfoot-like description?
This one is actually on 4 legs. So some of the witnesses that actually saw this thing, we used to have a artist here in the county named Bonnie Shields. In fact, I think you probably seen her pictures. She did a lot of she was called the Tennessee Mule Artist. She drew a lot of these mule pictures and all. And if you've ever been to a Cracker Barrel or somewhere like that, you probably seen her pictures on the wall. She was an excellent artist. In fact, she just lived about a quarter mile down the road where I live at now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, it is. I thought that was kind of neat. But she drew a picture of it based on, she rendered a picture based on their descriptions. And what I can tell, it looks like a hyena to me. It's got short back legs, longer front legs. It's kind of like a bear. But that's what the people described to her as what it looked like. And she drew this picture out. And it's actually a picture of it in the old Robertson County Times.
Do you think that do you think there's any possibility that they call it a chupacabra now? I don't really liken it to a chupacabra because I remember when people used to describe that thing like an alien with the big quills on its back, but what people call a chupacabra now, do you think you think there could be any connection between this American hyena and that thing?
It is very, very possible. Very possible. Back years ago, there were several reports going around of this black panther that used to roam the banks of Sulphur Fork Creek. In fact, my sister-in-law actually saw one a while back. My neighbor down the road from me has seen a black panther up close just for the last 3 years out here by my house. We had something run across the yard one night. We were coming into town, and this, whatever it was, this large black cat just streaked across our driveway in front of us. And it was, I got out and looked, I couldn't find any sign or anything. Of course, I got my pistol, so I went looking for it. But I got to thinking later, I've got security cameras, all around the house. I went and looked at them, and the only good picture, halfway decent picture I could get, looked like a big black cat standing on my sidewalk. But it was real blurry. The picture wasn't all that great. It's kind of like the Sasquatch and Bigfoot pictures. They're all blurry. You can't get a good picture, But it's very possible it could have been something like that too. I really don't know. It was several people that I talked to. I'll get into that toward the end of it. I don't want to spoil it just yet. There was several deputy sheriffs and all that used to get out and rabbit hunt, like that back in the day. And this deputy sheriff actually witnessed this animal, and it was actually chasing a rabbit, like he was trying to catch the rabbit to eat it. And he said his rabbit dogs got so afraid of this creature that they came running back with their tails stuck between their legs and jumped in the back of the truck and wouldn't go any further.
Oh,
and
wow.
He didn't want to publicly describe exactly what it looked like for fear of being ridiculed. He said he was one of the deputy sheriffs in the county, and I guess he's afraid he'd lose respect or whatever, but he didn't want to risk getting ridiculed over it. And the first paper article came out about the critter in June 16th of '66. And once the article it made the front page headline, and as it did, the news spread across the county like wildfire, But the newspaper didn't really take a really serious approach to it. It kind of had like a tongue-in-cheek approach to it. They didn't want to throw a lot of credence into it, evidently. But once the word got out, they were hordes of the Robertson County citizens converged on the area, with a vengeance. Everybody was armed, even kids running around with pistols and shotguns. Everybody wanted to get a shot at this thing. It became a night adventure for a lot of them. At that time, Laura Road was a little narrow gravel road, one-lane gravel road, and there were several times that there was no way to go up down the road. There were so many cars parked on it, edge of the fields and the road, people's driveways and blocking the road and all that. There were several times the ambulance couldn't even get up and down the road. So anyway, it was. I wonder if somebody hadn't got shot or killed, and then all this stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
Said the hardware stores were selling the guns and ammunition left and right. Just they had trouble to get them on the shelves. Everybody it didn't have a weapon, was buying one. And then the next, go ahead.
I take it nobody was ever able to take one of these out.
Evidently not. If it did, it never was brought to light. If they did. In fact, the next article came out a week later, and they only added fuel to the fire. One of the local farmers went to his hog pen to feed the hogs, and he heard a shrill, high-pitched scream. It scared the hogs so bad. He said he wouldn't even eat. Hogs wouldn't even eat, which is very odd for a hog. He went to his house and called the sheriff's department, and they in turn dispatched the Robertson County Civil Defense Unit to the scene, which the Robertson County Civil Defense used to be our early stages of our fire department. The Civil Defense was our fire department. They had several volunteers, on staff, so the 14 members actually went out there and walked over this place trying to find some evidence of it, So they walked along the creeks, did a foot search. So they only found one canine-looking track with large claws, but no other evidence, was ever found to say there was ever anything out there. So estimated the size of the track that left, it probably weighed in the neighborhood of 100 pounds or so, During the search, a couple of them did say that they did hear something run past them in the undergrowth, and they jumped in the creek, and they never got a chance to actually lay eyes on it. The next article that came out, most of these articles are at the archives at Robertson County Times on microfilm. Took a lot of research to find some of these, but they don't have anything cataloged. We just have to kind of go by dates. Days that the paper would have come out.
Oh goodness!
There was a couple sitting on their porch one night, and they heard this strange cry that they'd never heard before. It came from the direction of Carr Creek. They said it was a real loud, high-pitched scream, and it sounded like 5 or 6 times. And there was also several other people said they heard the same thing at the same time. They heard a little about it that night, and they went back the next night, sat on the porch, hoping they could hear it, and it was quiet. They didn't hear anything that night. Most people said it was, resembled a hyena. One woman said she saw it perched on a log, and it looked more like a bear to her. So this thing is either shape shifting. I don't know what it's doing. It's changing shapes, or people's eyes are not what they're supposed to be, or whatever. But
could be any number of things.
Every animal that was found dead in the area was blamed on the Carr Creek critter. I mean, every time somebody found a dog, even though they got hit by a car or whatever, the critter did it. Every dead rabbit, every chicken, everything. They did find a peacock that had died. And they thought, well, maybe it was the peacock people were hearing, but they don't. I don't see how a peacock could be mistaken for a hyena. I mean,
No, not particularly.
Exactly. There was a couple that was having a 4th of July picnic in their front yard, and they got through eating, and they got up and took a short walk, and they came back, and all the food was gone off of their. They had a tablecloth laying on the ground, and all the food was gone, and there was some muddy paw prints that was left on the tablecloth, but nobody around the county could identify what part had left them. There were some kind of strange paw marks, and nobody could identify them. See, as it went on, things kept getting stranger and stranger and stranger. More people coming into the area, and maybe hoping to either hear it or get a glimpse of it, And it said that in any given weekend, there was probably over 1,000 or more cars on this little narrow road, which is not but a couple of miles long, So that's a lot of traffic on one little road like that. So everybody's trying to figure out what this thing is. Somebody comes up with an idea of getting WLAC radio in Nashville to come out and do a live broadcast from the scene. They actually plan to have a helicopter to fly over the area and do a search for it. I don't know if you remember a guy named John Lashley. I think he was the weatherman that used to be on Channel 5. He was supposed to be in the chopper, and they had it scheduled for 12:30 that afternoon on a Saturday, and I called it like a dog and pony show at the Springfield Airport. They had several local officials there, people, I guess were campaigning for election, all kinds of stuff. It's like the regular dog and pony show. But anyway, Mother Nature kind of put a stop to that. A weather front moved in, and with high winds and heavy rain, the chopper never left Nashville. And so they decided to set up a call center at the airport and take calls from local residents, about the critter. And I'd like to find some tapes on that.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It would. But so everybody had the same consistency. Sure, there's something out there, but they don't know what it is. And the local dignitaries were there, And anyway, more sightings kept coming in about a large gray critter in the area, and somebody said they thought it was a mangy dog. I mean, all kind of descriptions on this thing. It was kind of just kind of odd that nobody could agree on what the thing actually looked like.
Yeah,
Some thought it may have been a coyote, but back then the coyotes weren't native to Robertson County at that time. They were getting closer, but they weren't actually in the county at that time.
right.
There was one report that came out that they thought the critter may have been what they call a marsupial wolf, also called the Tasmanian hyena. It was thought to be once extinct. It was discovered in Tasmania in July of 1966. Which is about the same time that this critter appeared here. That's kind of odd.
That is very interesting.
It is. It's odd. And so the physical description, closely resembled that of the critter. And except the weird cries were something like that of a wolf. And the creature was primarily nocturnal, which sounds about right. I guess it is possible, but I don't think it's too probable.
Now, given your research on the critter of Carr Creek, I'm sure you're probably very familiar with those newspaper articles from, I think it's the early 1900s. That town in Alabama, were afraid that the Bell Witch had came back because they were having some sort of beastie down there, and they're calling it the Bell Witch Beast. And I wonder if maybe it was kind of a similar creature because its cry, its scream would be heard for a wide distance, and I believe there's even a few descriptions that it would shake the ground when if you're in close proximity, and it would roar.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very interesting incident. It scared a few people, and I think it actually got shot and killed. And the guy said, I want to say it was a reddish hue, and it had a white stripe on its chest, something to that effect.
Wow. I hadn't heard that part of it, but I do remember hearing something about that. Actually, as far as I know, the first cryptid sighting in Robertson County was by John Bell, where he actually witnessed, the dog with a rabbit's head,
Wandering out in his cornfield one day.
His corn, that's right, exactly, So that's actually the first cryptid. And then there was this large vulture that actually kind of tried to torment, his children, chased him around some, and then, of course, one of his slaves actually supposedly hit this, what he called the witch dog in the head with an axe, and split its head wide open. And the next time he saw it, it had two heads instead of one.
Man, can you imagine how just terrifying that'd be? And especially for one of the slaves, because they were very, superstitious at that time.
Oh, yes. Yes, they were. Especially about this witch, especially,
I believe even the gentleman that happened to, he was carrying around something that was, it might have been part of a voodoo tradition they called a witch's ball he was carrying around.
Yeah, right. He sure was carrying a witch's ball. Yep, exactly. And I forgot somewhere in the book it described what all that thing was made out of. It had some kind of hair in it and all kind of stuff in it. But yeah, like you said, it sounds more like voodoo.
Kind of does. Dewey, I think you'll probably find this interesting. I told you a little while ago when we're off the phone that I'm doing construction now, and construction takes you into a company of a lot of people and whatnot. And I work as an expediter currently, and the work trailer next to me, it's the electricians expediting team, and it's a feller named Brian. And I was shooting the breeze with Brian one day. He comes from Springfield, and I was like, Brian, they ever still see that hyena thing running around up there anymore? And he's like, yeah, they still see it.
Well,
has he ever seen it?
I haven't ever heard anything to indicate he's seen it, but he said that he alluded to they still see it down there in one way or another.
You work down there close to Clarksville on your construction?
I'm sorry?
You working in Clarksville on your construction site?
Yes, sir. I'm over close to the hospital here in town. We got a site over there doing construction.
Okay. You're very well familiar with the area. My daughter lives in Clarksville, so very well familiar with the area. Yeah, a lot of people were concerned about these people getting out and, stomping through the weeds and all, trying to find this thing, find this Carr Creek critter, And the sheriff's department was more concerned about everybody was armed and dangerous. They considered them armed and dangerous curiosity seekers, looking for this thing, and somebody's going to get themselves shot. But the residents in the area were more concerned with the safety of the searchers, not as much as them getting shot, and more concerned with them stomping around in the brush and undergrowth where all the snakes were living at, Robertson County is eaten up with copperheads, water moccasins, a few rattlesnakes, so it's kind of dangerous to get out at that time of year, be stomping around in the weeds,
I absolutely hate a snake, and that's kind of conflicting with my hobby of looking for Bigfoot. They kind of overlap a little bit.
There's not but 4 kinds of snakes I'm afraid of. That's a big one, a little one, a live one, and a dead one. That's all the snakes I'm afraid of.
I have a similar fear.
I like to got attacked by a copperhead up in the yard 3 or 4 years ago. It was out there. I was at my fish pond. Something was eating my goldfish, and I went out there and there was a couple floating in the water. And I looked and I seen something move, and it was a snake. And I took a net. He kind of going to dip it out, and it got to striking at me. And I took a stick and just kind of flipped it out of the fish pond. It hit the ground and come toward me. I mean, it had its mouth open. It was after me, And I had to dispatch it. I didn't want to do it, but I had to dispatch it in the yard. Better him than me.
I guess it's been about 3 years ago now. I opened the door on a hot summer day about to take the dog out. I was like, all right, I'm going to take the dog out. I opened the door. Oh, no, I'm not. There's a copperhead out here. A huge, giant copperhead just on the front porch.
Right in front of the screen door.
Oh, man. And my wife was sitting at her father's house one day just on the back step at the back porch. They had this old house they lived in, and sitting there, and he told her, he looked at her and told her, "Don't move, don't move." And there was a big shrub right beside her, where she's on either side of the step. And he walked over to the truck and he was a masonry contractor, and got a mortar hoe out of the back of the truck, reached up on there and hit it, and it struck that hole and left two big streaks of venom on it, He ended up killing it, but it was a copperhead, So. And he said it was called up ready to strike, when he saw it,
Them things are just plumb creepy, and I don't got no use for them.
Me either.
So, do you get any? Do you get many Bigfoot stories from that portion of Tennessee?
Yeah, really I do. Like I said in my book, The Season of the Critters, there's a lot of them. Especially in the same area of Carr Creek. This is on the other end of Carr Creek, on the Greenbrier end of it. In fact, my wife's uncle, he lives out there between Springfield and Greenbrier, and his farm, Carr Creek runs through their farm. And he said back, the neighbor told him, I'm gonna think it was probably in the late 50s, early 60s, that he had a spring in his field just across the road from my wife's uncle's house. And so he went over something happened. He went over to check on the spring or something, and he seen 4 big hairy creatures drinking water out of his well, out of his spring. He said 2 of them were large. He figured they were adults, and there was 2 small ones, like juveniles maybe, drinking out of it. So he just kind of backed away, went back to the house, But our uncle, he was his father lived out that way at the end of the lane, and he was doing some work at his father's house one day, and he was going back and forth to his house and his father's house, doing some plumbing, going back and getting parts, pipes, stuff like that. So he just happened to look up in the TVA right away, underneath the fire line right away, and he's seen, like two cedar trees, 2 or 3, I think it maybe 2 cedar trees up there, close to one of the towers, And he didn't think much about it. And he got to thinking, well, they just mowed this a while back, and this cedar trees wouldn't grow back that quick, So he had to look when he went by there, and they were still there, but they had moved. They were a little bit closer to him, than they were to the tower. And so he went on and got what he was doing that evening. He come back, and he looked back up there, and whatever it was gone. And they've had some experiences just in the last few weeks of seeing, hearing something in the woods and something large running by the door of their house. And I'm going to go back out there and do that investigation. My wife just had a carpal tunnel surgery, so it may be a week or 2 before I get back out there. I got to have my Bigfoot partner with me.
Absolutely. We wish her a speedy recovery.
Oh yeah, she's doing great. Thank you for that. Yeah, she's doing good. She's up and starting around and all. She had the left arm done a few weeks ago, and then she went yesterday and had the right arm done. The right arm is more aggravating than the left because she's right-handed.
Oh, I gotcha.
That makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, there are several things in the county going on. There've been several of them. Most of them were up around the Greenbrier, around the Greenbrier area. Yeah, like I said, it's still part of Carr Creek. So it's possible this thing they were seeing, I don't know if it may have been a juvenile Bigfoot. I have no idea, I never laid eyes on it, so I can't testify to that. I heard some tree knocks come out of the woods. Oh, it's been about a year ago. And I was standing there by the creek. I had this plastic pan, and I was just trying to shake some dust out of it. And I just hit it a couple, 3 times with my hand, just to kind of break the dust loose. And I turned around and walked back to the house, and I heard these tree knocks come out of the woods. And I thought, that don't sound right. So I stopped, sat there a few minutes, and I did it again. and I got a reply back. I don't know if it was somebody in the woods doing it. I have no idea. It could have been. There's a farmhouse way back in the woods, but I don't think the guy would have. He's an older guy. I don't think he'd have got out and been traipsed to the woods just doing a tree knock for me. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like it.
And I set my parabolic microphone up one time, and I got a real faint one, but it came from the opposite direction of the way I had my microphone headed. And I tried to repeat it, and it never would respond after that. You have to turn my microphone around. And we did. Well, my wife's uncle's house one night, and we just built a campfire and sat there in the front yard, just sitting around talking. And I had my
Hello.
And anyway, his grandkids come over, and they were working on a truck, and they were making all kind of noise down there. And I thought, I'm going to move this microphone to the other side of the house. But we just kept on talking. I never did move it. And from a direction back behind the house, I get this real long whoop sound, and the hoot owls went crazy. I mean, that's like whatever it was, run the hoot owls from out of the woods. I don't know what it was. I didn't get a faint reading on it. I could have got a better one if I had my microphone heading the right direction, but you know how that goes.
Oh yeah, every time you hear something, you get set up, ready to record it, and it either stops or the equipment will mess up in some way. Usually, in my case, I'll have forgot like a vital cord to hook something up,
Or you'll declare it a dead night, get ready to go home, pack up, and then everything will activate.
Yeah, and then you get your gear back out and it'll all shut up.
Yep, exactly. That's the way it usually goes. That's the way it usually goes.
Yep, it's unfair in that way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Dewey, let's take things in a little bit of a stranger route. Have you heard any instances of UFOs or anything of that nature in Robertson County? I understand that it's a strange place. It's got a lot of supernatural activity and apparently a lot of cryptid activity. Is there any seemingly extraterrestrial activity?
Yes, my wife was actually coming back from. This was back in the. I'm gonna say it was probably in the mid to late '80s. She'd been to Austin Peay here in Clarksville to watch my daughter play volleyball. Well, her and my youngest daughter, they were coming back home that night. It was 10, 11 o'clock at night, something like that. But anyway, she actually seen this flying saucer. What she called it, described it as flying saucer. If you come in from on 49 from Coopertown and going into Springfield, it was right there on the right side of the road. I think they've got a subdivision built there now called Glover Hills. Anyway, she saw this saucer. And she said what was odd about it, it was sitting kind of at a 45-degree angle. It was like it just come down from the sky and just kind of stopped. And it was about maybe 30 or 40 feet off the ground and just sat there hovering, at an angle. And she sat there and watched it for a long, because this is back for the days that nobody had cell phones, and cameras and stuff like that, She sat there and watched it. She said a good 20 minutes. Just sat there in the road. There wasn't any traffic artists. She kind of pulled up on the shoulder and sat there just watching it. And finally, so she could see some like observation windows in it, but she couldn't see anybody inside. Nothing inside it. She just see the ring of windows around it. So she sat there for a while, and finally it just kind of leveled up, and when they drifted up maybe 100 feet in the air and just vanished. It just took off, vanished over the treetops just that quick,
What kind of description did she give the craft? Like in terms of color or shape, any lights coming off of it?
And she said it was round, saucer shaped. Had the top. It kind of had like a little dome on top of it. That's where she saw the windows in it. Like I said, it was late. It was night. She could still make it out. I reckon the moon was out that night too. But she made it out. She's seen one a couple of years ago, and she's seen one just this past year going to her friend's house. And one of them, she described it as just what they call a tic tac, just a little white
Oh yeah, those
And
ones.
she said it was moving slow, and she sat there and watched it from the time she first saw it till it vanished on over the horizon, as far as she could see. And didn't even think about it. So she was so amazed she didn't think about getting a picture of it. And then she was in Hendersonville, and I saw a jet was flying over, so she just kind of watched the jet. So all of a sudden, this real bright, shiny, I don't know if she called it like kind of like a metallic looking orb, just flew over the top of that jet. It went faster than the jet was going, and it was gone. She sees them pretty regular. I've yet to see anything that I would call a UFO. I've seen a few little strange lights and things like that, but we seen something here in front of the house last year. We thought it may have been something UFO related, but it was the SpaceX where they were releasing the satellites head of the string.
Yeah, cool.
And that is, I got a picture, but you can't hardly see it. It was the time I got my camera out, it almost had already faded, but it moved across the sky in front of the house, and it was neat. It's like a string of Christmas lights. It was neat looking.
That is super cool.
That's about the only thing I've seen like that.
We talked to a gentleman, military police or former military police, a week or two ago, and as of when we upload this, that interview will already be uploaded onto the channel. But he's taken reports multiple times of black triangle UFOs being seen around Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's been several of them. I hadn't seen one. Like I said, I probably remain kind of not really a skeptic, but I'm skeptical. I'll put it that way a little bit, until I can actually see. That's the same way with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or whatever, Dogman, or whatever.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a healthy skepticism.
Exactly. Until I see something, I like to try to debunk stuff myself, And but until I see one, I'm still kind of like skeptical, And the one that Gabby saw at LBL a while back, that would probably unnerve me, something like that.
Oh, her Dogman sighting or possible Dogman?
Yes, they say that's kind of overwhelming. Martin Groves and I were at LBL. It was back last year, and we were just driving along, and I had my camera set up on the dash, and hadn't got anything that's worth it filming. I just had turned the camera off, put it back in the case, and something come out of one of the trees beside me over there. And I don't know if it may have been a big buzzard. I don't know what it was. It was something big and gray swooped down out of that tree and went across the top of the truck and was gone. And I don't, and I thought, I should have left my camera on just a couple of seconds later.
And when she seen that and the other gentleman in the truck, I was, considering in my mind, like, I wonder if this guy would mind if I put up a camera in the dash, or just something like that.
You should have asked.
I should have asked. I should have been looking in the right direction. I'm still kicking myself in the pants.
I heard that. I've installed dash cams in all my vehicles. I've got a little side by side that I get out and ride around on. I do a lot of them. My granddaughter do some cemetery restorations and things like that. That's what I use it for, to get back into the fields, these old cemeteries and everything. And I've got one. I didn't got one on it. But I told her, I said, we go back to LBL again or whatever. I'm going to take one of the cameras. I'm going to take one out of my truck and stick it in the back glass of the Explorer, and that way if we go in my truck, I'll take one out of the Explorer and put it in the back of the truck. But I want something looking behind me. That's where you see most of them. They say, they'll cross the road behind you or something like that.
Now, was evidence of Tennessee Bigfoot the group that chronicled this report, but when we were down with Seth Breedlove down around Land Between the Lakes when they were doing American Werewolves.
Right.
We were driving into the park, and went into the park, did our thing, and went home. And that same military police gentleman sent me a report from the day that we were there, and I think it might have been on the same roads that we crossed to go back into the park. Someone was driving down the road and they looked in their rearview mirror and there was a Sasquatch running right across the road.
Oh man.
And man, that's not the first time that's happened to me, because I think it was 2020. I want to say it was 2020. Me and the family, we were down the Land Between the Lakes, and we were at the spot where the family was said to have been attacked, and and we did our thing up there, left the park, and on the way out, we passed by the elk and bison prairie. I looked off to my left, looked at the sign, and then we just kept going. Get home, and a day or two later, there's a report on phantomsandmonsters.com of somebody who's seen a Dogman walk across elk and bison prairie the same day I was there.
Wow.
Man, this stuff happens when I'm there, and I'm just not lucky enough to see it.
Is this the prairie that you pay to go through, or is it the one across the road from you?
It's the one that you pay to go through. I've never actually been through it myself. I probably should, just to.
Oh, it's neat. I take the granddaughters through it every once in a while. It's every time we're down that way, we try to go through it. But it's real neat. I really like it. In fact, I've got out and walked a little bit. They say not to do that, but as long as the buffalo are far enough away from me and there's no elk close by, I may get out and do a little walking, looking for tracks and things like that. But yeah, the one that you actually on the side of the road there, by the old iron furnace, back in there was where Martin's account happened at, back in that road across, behind the prairie.
His sighting that he had.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You take that road. It's a long road down through there. But you take it. It's almost in front of that little iron furnace, and go back in there, and it winds around back in there, and I think you turn off on another blacktop or something, and you go back in there. But it's way back in there. It's a very secluded area.
Just kind of general vicinity area, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I'd like to see it at some point.
It's only like 7 a person or 7 a carload, so it's
No. We're talking about where Martin had his encounter.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about the elk and bison. I apologize.
I would like to see the elk and bison prairie, though.
I don't think they charge for the police Martin saw.
I don't think the park's going to announce where that happened, but.
No, they're gonna try to keep it all hush all they can. They're gonna try to keep her all hushed up.
Well, Dewey, do you ever get well, let me rephrase this. Robertson County has, because of the Bell Witch phenomenon, always kind of had a reputation for black dog sightings and whatnot. And I've heard a few recent sightings with such a things and Dogman encounters up in that area. Do you have any stories to share on any Dogman sightings in the area?
I haven't actually what I would term as a Dogman. I know we've had a few what I would call I haven't seen one close enough, or nobody has seen it and give a description that would say it's a Dogman. Most of them are saying it's just a big hairy creature, and describe it as like a Bigfoot, But, I guess it would look like I guess the Dogman would appear like a Bigfoot, seen it from the back or something, I don't, there's just mostly just, Bigfoot sightings they've had. There's a guy here in town. I can't think of his name now, but he's a big Bigfoot researcher too. And I've been able to get with him. I'm not going to get his name right now, but get with him and see if he has anything, any updates or whatever, on that. I did. While I'm thinking about it before we get out of here, have you ever been to the Threshing Show in Adams?
No, but it's something that I'd like to see. I've seen the advertisement for it multiple times, and I've told Gab that I'd like to go see it at some point.
It is coming up next weekend. Starts the week from tonight, Thursday, and runs through the weekend. I've got a booth set up. I do a little bit of yard art. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have a few little things there, but I'm gonna be showcasing all my books. and I had a pretty good turnout there for book sales there. But I'm inside I used to set up outside under a tent, and as you get older, the temperature affects you a lot differently. And so I discovered I could pay $20 more for a booth inside the air-conditioned gym than I paid to be outside in the heat.
Well, Dewey, I think that's $20 well spent, my friend.
It is. Plus, you had to pay $10 a day for a electrical receptacle to run a fan or whatever off of it. It's included if you're inside the gym, so actually it's only about the same price, just about. But, yeah, I'm inside the air conditioning gym. I don't know exactly where I'll be at yet. They'll assign you tables when you get there, but I'm gonna be inside the air conditioned gymnasium all 3 days.
You gonna be there on Thursday?
I'll be there Thursday. Yeah, I think we set up. I think about noontime on Thursdays when you go in to set up. But I'll be there on Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
You'll probably see me one of those days. I'll try to come see you and get one of your books.
There you go. Yeah. Look me up. I'll be there.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I've seen that advertisement for the Threshing Show multiple times. I was like, I bet that's interesting, Gab. I'd kind of like to see that sometime.
Probably be real interesting.
It is nice. They got a blacksmith shop set up. They used to have they still may have it this year. They used to have a guy set up that did he had a big wood lathe. He turned out bowls and biscuit cutters and all kind of stuff like that. They got all kind of crafts going on. They have exhibitions. These old I call them hit and miss engines, old single cylinder engines. They have them set up running. They actually thresh wheat there with steam engine. They have antique tractor pulls. They have mule pulls. It's very interesting.
That's very interesting. And for those who'll be listening to this, if you're in the area, come down and see the show. Adams, Tennessee throws this every year, and from the description, it sounds like it's going to be in the same place where the school is, where they have the Bell Witch Museum. Is that correct, Dewey?
That's right. It's correct. Yeah, it's all around the schoolhouse.
Excellent. So anybody who's listening and in the area, go and support Adams. They're a very charming town.
It is a very charming and sometimes spooky town. I've had a few experiences there. I won't go into that. We talk about this Carr Creek critter for a second. You know what a dumb bull is?
Did you say a dog boy?
Dumb bull, D-U-M-B-B-U-L-L, dumb bull. They take like a little small nail keg or something like that, stretch of leather over it. They'll actually punch a hole in it and put a string in it. They'll actually rouse it up, kind of like you would a fiddle, violin bow. And you pull that string, let your fingernail slide on the string, and it makes this terrible noise. That's what they was thinking. Maybe this noise that they were hearing thought was the Carr Creek may have been somebody playing with a dumb bull.
Nice.
They will actually. There's some sound that's so terrifying it will actually make cattle stampede.
Oh,
They're against the law to have one in Tennessee.
Is that
Tennessee
right?
has outlawed them. It was also reports. This is about the same time now the electronic sirens and all were coming out. And somebody thought that may have been somebody in the actual civil defense fire department had got their hands on one of those newer sirens and was using that to make the sounds with. It was all kind of it was kind of odd. I got a phone call from a guy one day. I actually had a friend on Facebook, and he said, I was talking about if anybody had any stories about the Carr Creek critter, let me know. So he sent me a message. If you want to hear about the critter, come and see me. So I give him a call and set up an appointment the next morning. We went, sit there in his house, had a cup of coffee, and he says, if you want to know about this, he said, I'll tell you this, but he says, I don't want my name revealed. he said, after I pass away, you can reveal it, but I'm not going to reveal it. But he actually says that he actually, I don't know if I believe him or not, he said he actually hoaxed the Carr Creek critter. It was all in his, it was all, he said he was a hoax that he perpetrated,
Oh, wow.
That's what he's saying now. He's describing all this stuff. He mentions some names and all that in the area that were there at the time, but that doesn't make it actually happen. But anyway, he says that they actually found a dog that got hit by a car up on a 431, and they took it and drug it down into the woods and hung it up on a tree, and suppose he took some plywood and cut out some big footprints and all, some big feet, and made footprints and all. I don't know if I actually believe him or not, but it is weird. About the same time he said this happened, he almost got, the last night he supposedly done this, he almost got shot.
Oh.
There was somebody out there with a gun, and they were actually searching, and he let out a scream, according to him now. And he says all of a sudden the spotlight hit the bush he was hiding behind, and gunshots rang out. So he hit the ground and finally crawled back to the house and never did go back to it again. That's about the same time that this critter supposedly disappeared, but they actually found some remains of some kind of unknown animal, and they sent them out to get them tested. It came back, it was a stillborn cat, supposedly. They sent it to the UT lab, but I'm pretty sure UT lab was probably not qualified to do tests on a critter like it. I don't know.
Perhaps
but anyway,
not.
I'm not sure if I believe him or not. I'm gonna give him a benefit of a doubt. But
maybe it was his intention to hoax something, and there was an event of legitimacy going on around his attempted hoax.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He gave me names and everything. Because supposedly, what brought it to do this, to come up with this creature, he said there was a large Blackberry Patch down there by Carr Creek. He said it had some of the biggest, the sweetest blackberries, in the area, And him and his partner would actually go pick the blackberries and carry them to town and sell them. They lived there, kind of on the south side of Springfield anyway, and at the time, and they would take them what we call a south town, and was selling the blackberries. Well, people found out where these blackberries were coming from and decided, well, we're not going to buy them. We'll go out there and pick them, So he said they were out there tromping the bushes down and things like that. And he said they tried to come up with some way to get them out of there. He said they even thought about getting the cattle herded up and stampeding cattle to them while they're out there picking blackberries. Anyway, ready to get somebody hurt. So anyway, he says he looked over his friend and says, "We need a monster." So that's where he says that's where the Carr Creek critter was born. On that day, they said that, But I don't, because I'm skeptical on that too. I wasn't there. I can't prove or disprove it either way.
Kind of just something interesting to keep in your mind.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna remain skeptical until I see something, and I may not want to see it when I do see it. I don't know. I've heard it's kind of pretty traumatic. People have witnessed this stuff, actually seen it, So I don't know.
I don't claim to be normal by any means, but man, I'm just sitting here just wishing on a star to see something weird.
Oh, well, they have, we were talking about Adams. Also in the fall, I got to find this little town. I got a flyer here somewhere about it. They have a Bell Witch play there. In the fall of the year. They have one called Smoke. It's about the Night Riders.
We're big fans of both of those plays.
We try to go see them every year.
We seen Smoke for the first time last year and liked it so much that we bought the CD and now we listen to it throughout the year.
There you go. They have a little deal before that. Nice to have to play called Red River Tales.
Now I've never got to see that one.
They have people come up and just tell something either about the Bell Witch, or something like that. And I've been invited to to speak on one or two of those nights. So I hadn't got any dates nailed down yet, but it ought to be interesting. A friend of mine, Rick Gregory, he puts it on, and he actually did a book on the Bell Witch, and it actually is not about the tale. It's about what is perpetuating the legend. It's getting stronger and stronger. Or more and more famous as time goes on. The study's kind of fading out. He wrote a book about that. I reckon he got some kind of a grant. On which one of the colleges gave him a grant to do a study on that.
Interesting.
I don't know why I can't.
Are you familiar with the book Bell Witch Stories You've Never Heard Before?
I have seen it. I don't. It's one of I don't have. I have a whole big collection of almost every Bell Witch book that was written. That's one of I don't have.
I highly recommend that one if you can get it. It's very interesting. I was just wanting to know if you knew if the gentleman who wrote it was still alive and down there or not.
You know what his name is?
I think it's Dr. Jim Brooks.
I
think that's
it.
it.
Yeah. He's I'm a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans there in Adams, and he's one of the ex commanders of the camp. Yeah, I met Jim several times.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, if you ever get opportunity, I highly recommend his book. It's very fascinating.
I'll have to run him down and make him sign me a copy.
Heck yeah, brother.
We've got the old one of the old original ones with the white cover on it. And,
that's so cool.
That is it's mysterious because you go to get it or something, you go to the bookshelf to get it, and it's gone, and you can't find it anywhere. And you come back a few days later, it's back. Where was that to start with? I mean,
That's unusual.
I showed it to Wild and Weird West Virginia on that podcast one night, on live stream one night, and I locked it up in the bookcase. I got a lockable door. I locked it up where it would disappear so I could show it to them. I was looking right now; it's still there, but yeah, I've got most of all the Bell Witch books.
It took me a long time to get it, but I finally got a first edition of Charles Bailey Bell's Bell Witch book, and that's one of my treasure trove books.
Oh yeah.
That is a great read.
I don't know how much of that tale is true. It was written by one of the Bell sons, and it was actually written to sell to a newspaper publisher, Martin Van Buren Ingram, who was a paper publisher in there in Clarksville. And it was written with the intention of selling it to him, for him to put in a book, So I don't know. It may be some truth to some of it. It may be all false. I have no idea. I wasn't there.
Could be the genuine article. Could be God just spinning a yarn in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Now, as far as the Bell Witch Cave, I've never been in it. My cousin used to own the property, and he called me one day when I was active in the rescue squad and said, "There's a dog that has fell off this bluff up here above the cave," and he says, "I've been feeding food down to it to keep it from starving." He said, "But I ain't got any way to get any water down to it." And he says, "That dog needs to be rescued off that bluff. Have y'all got any way of getting him off there?" I said, "Well, we'll go out there and take a look at it." So sure enough, me and my brother and a nephew and a couple more, we loaded up, went out there. The nephew was the smallest. The bluff was pretty steep. So we put him in a safety harness and tied a rope to him and kind of let him ease down the bluff down to the dog. And he carried a leather bag with him. The dog wasn't very big. And put the dog in the bag, and he tied the rope on it. We pulled the dog up, and then we dropped the rope back down to him. He hooked back up. We pulled him back up. And then Mr. Eden owned the cave at the time. Said, "Let me give y'all a tour of the cave for rescuing that dog." I said, "I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm gonna take a rain check. And I've never been in the cave. I probably will one of these days, probably pretty soon. It's kind of on my bucket list of things to do. But I don't think the cave itself is haunted as far as the Bell Witch. It is. There is a Native American burial ground above the cave, and I'm thinking maybe a vortex, maybe something. The Native Americans, put their burial grounds, in a vortex, or portal, you might call it, And I think that's what is haunted. What is the cave is just so what I call haunted or whatever.
Well, historically, there was only one real story that the Bell Witch even had an association with the cave. They'd sometimes hear the voice coming out of the cave or along the river, and then a child got stuck in a part of the cave, and it said, "I'll get you out," and
she drug
pulled
him
it
out by
out.
his feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he was covered in mud by the time he got out or something.
That's the only logical explanation I can come up with. That may have something to do with they say not to take a rock out of the cave, and I think the reason behind that is that, and I had people call me. I've had two people call me. One of them was from Florida, and one of them was I think down in Georgia. But they had toured the cave and took a rock out, and so everything had went squirrely with them. They lost everything they had. They were seeing things in their house and all kind of stuff, and I got them hooked up, both of them hooked up with some paranormal investigators in their area, and I reckon one of them evidently mailed the rock back to the cave. The other one mailed the rock to me.
That's some bad luck there, Dewey.
And I got rid of it quick. I took it back down to the cave and had to get rid of it for me, But
probably a good plan.
But I think that's what's going on with that. If it's part of a portal, you do pick up a rock or something out of that portal and take home with you. You have taken part of that portal home with you, and it could open up to let whatever come through, It's just kind of my take on it.
We've taken rocks from the area before, from the general area before. Sometimes it seemed like our luck's been a little rougher. Other times it just seemed like day-to-day business. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
Could very well be. Could very well be.
Well, Dewey, I reckon we've hit about the hour length of our show, and I guess we'll go ahead and close things up. And in conclusion, do you have any final thoughts, any final comments you want to add to this?
So I've already mentioned the Threshing Show.
Everybody go see Dewey and buy one of his books, and we're going to post links. Go and support Dewey.
I don't know if I mentioned this before the show or not, or before the record button was pushed, but I did work with Seth Breedlove today, and he is going to do my documentary on the Mantell incident, and I'm writing a book just strictly on that. My other book I did, the Eye in the Sky book, and mentions more than mentions the Mantell case. It's actually half of the book, which is almost 300 pages, is actually concerning the Mantell case. I found every paper I could find, the death certificates, birth certificates, all kind of federal government reports and all on that, and put in a book. This new book, which I'm going to call 12 O'Clock High, is strictly going to be concerning the Mantell case only. It's not going to cover the other UFO incident that I did on the other book. But it's I think Seth already has another. I'm not going to mention the name of it just yet. He says we're going to put a lot of time in on this. It's going to take. He talks 8 or 9 months. We're going to start it sometime in August. I've already got two of Mantell's grandsons that are actually they wrote them forward to the book for me. They're actually going to have interviews in this thing. We've got a few more people lined up to do interviews, so it ought to be a good one. It's going to take 8 or 9 months to get done, so we're going to devote a lot of time to this. This is not like This is something totally different. This is not like some guy chasing a Sasquatch through the woods, or sitting up in a tree stand, a Sasquatch walking under it or something like that. It's nothing like that. This is actually a true historic occurrence, of a highly decorated World War II pilot. He wasn't a crop duster, and it's gonna be good. I'm devoting a lot of my time to it, and I'm rewriting a lot of the stuff, and it's gonna be kind of like a biography. The other one was more historical, but this one is gonna be more like a biography of his life.
That's awesome, brother.
It'll be a good one.
Yeah, sounds like you got some great things on the horizon.
I love to write. I'm not writing. I'm trying to think of something to write about.
That is super awesome, brother. Well, Gabby, do you have any final things you want to add to this?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Dewey, for an excellent show. And I want to thank everyone out there listening. If y'all are able to go out and see him at the festival this coming weekend, and if we get to go and y'all happen to see us, feel free to come say hello. Everyone, have a great evening.
Absolutely. Dewey, thank you so much. It was a great show. And
you're more than welcome, and I hope to see y'all at the Threshing Show next weekend.
I will do my best, my friend. And I will hopefully, if I don't procrastinate, which I tend to do, we'll have this uploaded before the Threshing Show, so people can know it's coming and come see you in the show.
It sounds like a winner to me. Oh, my wife, she does embroidery work. This is the second year in a row she has embroidering the ball caps for the Threshing Show. And this year they're offering. She did these too. They're offering a woman's visor, with the Threshing Show, on it, So it's a real neat deal too. So she's involved in it pretty heavy too.
That's awesome, y'all. Anybody in the vicinity, go support the show. Go support the Edwards family. They do some great work. And I guess with that being said, thank y'all very much for listening. Y'all have a great night.